on Chapter 2 of our book, Ghost Academy, by E.C. Farrell. Traveling as a ghost is a combination of awesome and horrible, wrapped in an insanity burrito. It sure does work fast, though I'm not sure yet if it's just because we don't have very far to go. Kaz grabs Rafe's hand, then mine. His touch feels a bit like scooping up a palmful of snow, cold and light, but still oddly solid. I'm mildly surprised we can touch it all considering our current state of transparency. But then again, if we're on the same plane, this does make sense. It also makes me wonder what other things we can still do in spite of the fact that we no longer have bodies per se. I don't have much time to consider this question though, because without any kind of polite warning, we're smearing through the air, thinned out even more than our fragile forms already are. Every color blends together into this crazy, beautiful mess I never want to look away from. It sparkles and shifts and then breaks apart all at once. We halt in mid-air, settling onto the grass in front of a cluster of massive buildings. Against a background of stars on a dark sky, the silver-white walls glow, almost like they're emitting their own light. Pine trees scrape the bricks as the wind shoves them back and forth. For a ghost academy, it's seriously lacking spookiness. Kaz waves at the buildings like a tour guide. Welcome to Locklear Academy for the life deprived. A laugh busts out straight through my nose. It's rude and loud and makes Kaz jump a little, but Rafe joins me, snickering into a fist. I'm sorry, I say when I catch my breath. Was not expecting that. Kaz grins. No worries, that usually gets a good laugh from new students, just not quite so exuberantly. Ready for the grand tour? I tap my chin with a finger. Well, my schedule's pretty jam-packed, but I think I can make time. Kaz floats to the front. To the living world, Locklear looks like a group of abandoned cabins in the middle of the Colorado mountains. But with a little bit of magic, we have a perfect school for those of us not ready to pass on. Most everything inside is spelled in such a way that we can interact with our environment like we used to. But you'll have to learn pretty fast how to touch objects not on our plane. There are 2 other schools like Locklear in the U.S., one for younger ghosts and one for older ones. But we keep all 3 campuses secret for safety purposes. Does everyone who dies become a ghost? Rafe asks. Sounds like the schools would get pretty crowded. Kaz shakes his head. Only those with unfinished business. This typically means people who die young or are called to assist other ghosts in the afterlife, like me. His eyes drop a moment, but he drags them back up quickly and speaks fast as if trying to distract us from this reaction. Ghost guides are usually supes who can sense the spirits of the dead, otherwise known as mediums. We can feel when someone dies and needs our help. It's a little hard to explain, but essentially, we receive visions of those we're called to guide, which is why I was able to find you and Rafe. Like a bloodhound for the dead, I snicker. A real smile takes over Kaz's face. Not a bad comparison. He chuckles. Anyone who dies naturally will most likely just pass on, unless they get lost. Rafe's eyes bug. Is that a thing? Happens more often than you think. We follow our ghost guide through the main door of the center building, as in literally through it. On the other side, I sneeze, almost like we phase through a cloud of sawdust. Maybe I won't make a habit of doing that. Inside, the spook factor is even lower. None of the shiny wood floors creak, no lights flicker, and soft classical music smile on his freckled face, gray speckling his temples. Kazuha, I see you finally found our missing students. He spreads his hands in a sort of welcoming gesture. Mr. Warren and Miss Martin, we are so glad to finally have you at Locklear. I'm Mr. and I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Quershi, the headmaster, or Quershi, I think. I frown. Missing. This should be my immediate greeting to someone in authority, but at the moment, the sheer number of questions in my head outweighs all my southern politeness. Oh, there's a fact I remember about myself. Hopefully some more memory nuggets will keep dropping as I go. Maybe it's totally normal to lose your memory after dying. It is kind of jarring after all. Mr. I'm gonna say Q, because I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm very sorry. I think it's Quershi, but I'm gonna say Mr. Q steeples his hands under his chin. Yes, we've actually been looking for you for some time. It's not unheard of, but Kaz usually doesn't have so much trouble finding the newly deceased. Rafe's brow lifts. How long have you been looking for us? Kaz rubs his jaw. Well, you weren't technically missing, Rafe. We knew you were still locked into the first part of your unfinished business, since you were physically tied to Blakemore. That took priority, so we had to wait until that was done. Rafe's sunny expression drops for a moment, but he throws it back on fast as Kaz continues. It's so distracting that I almost miss what our ghost guide says next. Billy, though, we've been looking for you about a week. No matter how I tried, I couldn't pin down your location until tonight. A half cough, half gasp comes out of my throat. What? I've been dead a full week. Where the flip have I been for 7 days? Unconscious somehow. I thought coming here might give me some answers, but my list of questions is steadily growing. The wails of that shadow from the field grind through my head again. Maybe it had answers. I try not to snort out loud. Right, like a screaming, writhing shadow would be able to give me any insight into my current situation. Mr. Q frowns. It appears so. That was when Kazuha first had the vision about you. But I'm not sure we can get things sorted. We have many classes here that are designed to help you work through this new state of being. He hands Rafe and me separate pieces of paper that look like course schedules. In the meantime, Kazuha can show you the rest of the school and then to your dorms. My office is just over there if you ever need anything. The doors never open, because it doesn't have to be. He chuckles to himself as he floats off. I thread my fingers through the cold strands of my hair. They feel far more liquid than anything else, like thick streams of water flowing across my skin. A week? Where have I been for a full week? Or a whole week? Rafe frowns. You don't remember? I don't remember anything. Nothing at all, Kaz asks. I look at our ghost guide. Oh, it does not encourage me that this surprises you. Kaz rests a hand on my shoulder. A sort of weird feeling like a cold breeze spreads across my skin. If a cold breeze had solid weight to it. I know it's scary, but Mr. Q is right. We can help you figure it out here. Can't we, look me up? I tug on the ends of my hair. Surely there's a record of me somewhere. A wince twists Kaz's face. It's possible. We know a little from your public records. But you don't have much in the way of social media accounts. What we usually do in this situation is contact a living medium. With their ability to see us and their magic, they should be able to help. But it's also better for you to remember as much as you can on your own. Working with a healer should sensation. My fingers dip into the wood as if it were water, only the wall is in water, but my hand isn't either. It's almost impossible to explain. Rafe snorts at my bad teen rebel joke as Cass leads us through a large set of double doors into a room full of round, dark wood tables. Long counters line the far wall right under 4 silver shuttered windows, probably where they serve food. The smell of the last meal served lingers in the air and my mouth waters. I squint at Cass. Ghosts can eat. Rafe lifts a finger. Hey, there's a question I can actually answer. Yes, we can definitely eat. A friend of mine used to feed me bacon under the table. Red flushes his cheeks and his eyes bug a little. I bust into a laugh. Let me guess. Shifter. Please say shifter, because otherwise that's super weird, dude. Not that I should make fun of anybody for their fetishes, but that dimple appears alongside Rafe's grin. Yeah, fox shifter. What are you? Witch. The word pops out before I can even consider his question. Huh? I'm a witch. That's a fun fact. Like I said, memories should start coming back fast, Cass says with a smile. And yes, you can eat. But don't get too excited and go hog wild. You can still eat too much and feel like garbage after. You can also get tired and sick just like a living human. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but as far as we can tell, we're still tied to some of the same rules as the living, so long as we still exist in their plane. We can also get hurt, which brings us to combat. We follow him back into the hallway and out to the next building over. Snow weighs down the branches of the pines so they dip in front of the doors we slide through. It looks like a gym, complete with metal risers off to one side and gray mats on the other. Combat goes hand in hand with corporal contact, Cass says. You have to master that class first. In there, you'll learn how to pick things up. Sounds dumb, but it's harder than you think. It is. Rafe rubs the back of his neck. I still have a hard time with it. I wince. How long have you been practicing? Rafe shoves the hair out of his face, but it floats back down onto his forehead. Time's kind of hard too. But a couple weeks, I think, right after the unleashing. The unleashing. Like other words they've used. This sounds familiar, but I can't get a grip on their meaning. It slips away before I can grasp it. Yeah, Cass says, leading us toward the back door and out into the cold night again. Supes had their powers stolen for years by this group of Fae and anti-Sup humans. Then, when they tried to use Cade Blackmore to channel the rest of them into their own machine, she released them right back out into the world. Hence, the unleashing. solid he feels throws me off so bad I stumble back into Rafe's chest. His hands clamp down on my shoulders, keeping me on my feet. They're much stronger than what I expected, and they send an odd flush of warmth through me. Since I'm detached from my body, I know I don't have hormones anymore, but pleasant jitters buzz through me anyway. Maybe my spirit remembers what physical attraction used to feel like. The dude I ran into gives me a look with so much disdain I almost attempt to duck behind Rafe entirely. His expression is so ugly that it destroys his ridiculous good looks. Almost, anyway. I've always been into blondes, and this guy's nearly platinum. Not to mention that square jaw and those blue eyes. They remind me of the center of a flame, hot and cold all at once. That sneer, though. Watch where you're going. I straighten and cross my arms. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'll ask the healer to check my x-ray vision. It must be malfunctioning, so I couldn't see through the wall you ghosted through. Legit fire sparks in Blondie's eyes, then surrounds both of his hands. Think you're funny? Generally speaking, yes I do. I lift my chin, eyeing the flames. In spite of myself, I shovel back a bit into Rafe, whose grip tightens. This guy can't hurt me with that fire, there's no way. Not if I'm already dead. Then again, I do have a headache and can eat, and Kaz said I should be afraid of these Xers. So maybe I should retreat a little, try to smooth things over. Then Kaz steps between us, knocking off Landon. You know torching new students is frowned upon. Seems like a terrible way to welcome people, Rafe says. He's still standing behind me, and I'm just now noticing the way he smells. Like hikes in the woods all full of cedar. Pine. It's lovely, if not a little strange. Eventually I'll figure out ghost rules, but for now I find the fact that he smells at all oddly comforting. Part of me wants to lean against his chest, breathe in that pleasant scent. Maybe later. Landon's sneer tightens and the fire intensifies, but he shoves past us instead of attacking, so I count it as a win. The other boy follows him, but the girl who's with him hangs back and takes my hand, giving it a hard squeeze. She has short, copper-colored hair and warm brown skin. Both glow with the same ghostly light as the rest of us, but with a bit of a golden tint, almost angelic. Sorry about that. She pushes the thick-rimmed glasses she's wearing back into place. He's been cantankerous since he got here. I nod, laughing a little at her word choice. Guess death will do that to a person. It's super inconvenient. The girl grins. Not everyone adjusts so well. It's rather fascinating to observe differing reactions. I'm Haya. Are you Billy? That's one thing I am sure of. I step awkwardly to one side, immediately missing the feel of Rafe behind me as I introduce him. Dimple mode activates and he shakes her hand too. Welcome to Ghost High. Haya looks back at me. I'm your new roommate. Oh, cool. Fair warning. I sleep scream. Haya's eyes widen. You do. Not that it wouldn't be an interesting study in the mechanics of sleep, but I chuckle, totally joking. I sleep like the dead, which I guess is appropriate under the circumstances. Haya grins, then pokes Kaz in the shoulder. Your hypothesis was absolutely correct. She will fill the void Aaron left behind quite well. Last roommate, Rafe asks. Yes, she... Haya frowns and trails off, her eyes dart to meet Kaz's again, then move quickly back to mine. Left about a month ago. I'll tell you about it when you get back from your tour. Or sometime. See you in the dorm. Bye. I blink after her as she goes down the hall and disappears through a door. Before I can ask, Kaz launches into an explanation about the healers on staff and leads the way toward their office. I'll have to add Haya's former roommate to my ever-growing list of questions, because it sure doesn't sound like she completed her unfinished